Welcome back to the back rooms.
Albert Einstein!
It's MC Mr. Napkins in the house, woo woo, and he's putting on another goddamn mustache in an ERB2 video. If I had a nickel for every mustache, I'd have at least 15-20 cents by now. And with that, we give a hearty welcome aboard to Zach Sherwin, who has actually been aboard this whole time behind the scenes. He was a fellow Mission Improbable pal with Peter and Lloyd and has been involved in the writing since, I believe, day one. Zach already had his own comedy rap thing going on with his MC Mr. Napkins persona, so he slots into ERB as an on-camera performer pretty smoothly. I mean, he basically has the exact same background and skill sets as Lloyd and Peter, so if they can do it, he should be able to as well. He will go on to be one of the most prolific and consistent guest rappers we see in this series, so it's fun to have him here in his relatively humble on-camera introduction. And this shot of Peter here, this is so funny, it's sending me. He goes on to explain that one of the harder parts of this production was making sure he was seated correctly as Hawking. They tried really hard to make sure that his positioning was accurate to real life. They really wanted to make it clear that they were doing a parody portrayal of the man Stephen Hawking and not trying to make fun of his disabilities or those with disabilities in general. And honestly, I think that care really comes through. I never have once while watching this episode felt that there was any sort of hate or ableism or mean-spiritedness towards Hawking or wheelchair users in general. It's clearly done with respect and tact, and I really appreciate it. Good job to everyone involved. And speaking of everyone involved, here we get a formal introduction to Mary, best known as Mary Doodles. She is an on-again, off-again talent throughout the show's history, being most heavily involved in costuming and art design for seasons 1 and 2. She would go on to have some periodic acting appearances down the line, and also she has her own art channel on YouTube where she most prominently does her Epic Drawings of History, which is an ERB-related art show. See, this is the stuff I want to see from behind the scenes on ERB2. This is what I want. I don't want to see a mustache getting glued on for the 6th or 7th time. Mary explains how they built the Hawking wheelchair. It's actually pretty simple, but elegant. It's a real working electric-powered chair that they attached a music stand onto with a decorative wire to add the illusion of technology. I love this type of low-budget filmmaking that they're doing in Season 1.
When I apply my battle theory, minds are relatively blown. So take a seat, Steve. Oh, I see you brought your own.
Welp, coming out the gate swinging today. First off, great intro incorporating a bit of the language of Einstein's general relativity theory, but let's just get into it. If you're going to diss the disabled, you better not fall flat with it. And this did not fall flat. It's a textbook sick burn centering on Stephen Hawking being wheelchair bound. It's one of those disses where you feel like a horrible person for laughing, but you're still laughing, and it's an easy 3-pointer for me to start the battle.
What's with your voice? I can't freaking tell. You sound like Barney having sex fit to speak and spell.
Jesus Christ, back-to-back bangers. You've got the robot Wall-E from the Pixar movie of the same name. You've got the Speak and Spell, which is this weird children's learning toy from the 80s. Okay, apparently, and as of 2019, it's back. Sure, why not? Anyway, an incredibly insulting yet crudely accurate way to describe Stephen Hawking's robotic voice, and it has to be another 3-pointer here.
I'll school you anywhere, MIT to Oxford.
I get it, trying to do a pun with a couple prestigious smart people universities in there, but it's just kind of a neutral line.
All your fans will be like, that was Hartford.
Oh, awful pun. And it's using that format that they used in terrible kids comedies where someone goes, awkward. And then if it's a trailer in the early 2000s, it would be followed by a fart joke and then followed by a scene between the main character and the romantic love interest. It's bad. And they just had some sort of weird war flashback apparently, so we're taking a point off.
I'm as dope as 2 rappers, you better be scared. Cause that means Albert E equals MC squared.
I'm torn. The line delivery is a bit clunky, but it does check my boxes for a solid line. I mean, you have to incorporate E equals MC squared somewhere in there if you're using Albert Einstein, and I guess I don't know how much better you could work it into the battle, so I'll give it a point, but just barely.
What you're messing with here, boy.
The auto-tune is probably the best way they could have portrayed Stephen Hawking. It would be tough to rhyme properly while dealing with the cadence of the actual vocal software style, but you can't just have Stephen Hawking, someone who famously uses computerized speech, start talking in a regular voice. It's a good creative solution. Shame he doesn't say anything really interesting in these first bars, though.
I got 12-inch rims on my chair, that's how I roll, y'all. You look like someone glued a mustache on a troll.
I'm not incredibly impressed by the size of his wheelchair rims, but we'll give a point for the Troll Dolls diss. Trolls being a popular doll from at least the 1960s that has this famous big hairstyle and ugly look. Most modern audiences probably know Trolls best from the hit film Trolls World Tour, but the battle actually predates the Trolls cinematic universe, so at this time this was actually more of a retro toy reference.
I'll be stretching out the brain like gravity stretches time.
Gravitational time dilation is a theory actually put forth by Einstein and later built upon by other physicists including Hawking. Not really point-worthy, but a great use of relevant material for a reference in this rap.
When you try to put your little pea brain against this kind of mind.
Wow, okay, I almost completely missed this. I mean, this is something that's gone over my head until literally right now while overanalyzing these battles point by point. But I was like, why is P-brain spelled like that? Turns out this is actually a brilliant little play on physics words. And I won't pretend I fully understand the science and math here, but to the best of my abilities, what I've gathered is that a brain, in physics, is used in string theory to denote dimensional points. A P-brain is a point particle and can mean a zero-dimensional object. In other words, Hawking called Einstein a no-brain in science speak. Even if this isn't 100% accurate, I'm just so blown away that the ERB team made a reference like this back in season 1, and I'm giving a 3-pointer, no questions asked.
I'm the best, I'm the Snoop Dogg of science.
I'm not sure Snoop Dogg is the best as far as rap goes, but sure, he's up there, and the Snoop Dogg of science goes hard as a line, so I'm willing to award a point.
I'll be dropping mad apples on your head from the shoulders of giants.
Standing on the shoulders of giants is a quote associated with Isaac Newton, famous early physicist credited with the theory of gravity, which he famously was inspired to create by observing apples falling from his apple tree, often morphed into a humorous children's story where Newton was actively conked by an apple, with the brain damage giving him a eureka moment. I'm mostly impressed with the weaving of scientific references into the battle rap, but I'll give another point here, I like it.
I'm the giant whose shoulders you'd have stood on if you could stand.
It's not a 3-pointer. The wheelchair jokes are getting stale at this point, and the wordplay here wasn't the greatest, but I'm still giving a point because it plays off Hawking's verse, and I always respect that, but this one was pretty close to neutral for me.
I'll give you a brief history of pain with the back of my hand.
A Brief History of Time is of course Stephen Hawking's most famous work, at least in the public eye. This line, I don't know man, I'm not particularly impressed by Einstein's threat to pimp slap Stephen Hawking. I mean, at the end of the day, you're threatening to hit a guy in a wheelchair. It could be a neutral, but I kind of feel a negative point. Maybe it's standing out as particularly bad because of how many great lines we've had in the battle, but it just feels a bit lazy.
You can't destroy matter or me, for serious!
Oh, don't mind it. Casual law of quantum mechanics knowledge drop here. No big deal. No points on it yet, but this will come into play with the next set of bars.
Ripping holes in you bigger than the hole in your black hole theory was!
Okay, again, I'm just so impressed that these guys back in 2011 actually did their research on this. So one of Stephen Hawking's most famous theories is black hole theory. It's a significant breakthrough because it basically links quantum physics, which had been stuck purely in the theoretical physics realm, to the physical world through gravity, I think. Again, doing my best here, not a scientist. Please learn me something in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm happy to gain a better understanding of these things. Anyway, while groundbreaking, a big flaw in the black hole theory was that it requires matter to be destroyed, which is impossible in our current understanding of the universe. Or at least this was a big flaw in Hawking's initial presentation of the theory. From what I understand, the issue was solved relatively quickly and was more a problem with Hawking's explanation in Brief History of Time than in the math itself. Basically in the writing, it was simplified a little bit, and that simplification caused an issue. But still, even if it's not the most technically accurate diss, the historic and scientific reference is impressive, the performance from Zach Sherwin is great, and I'm willing to give it 3 points here.
There are 10 million particles in the universe that we can observe. Your mama took the ugly ones and put them into one nerve.
I think this is an accurate enough amount of particles. I don't know, Google says there's Eddington number or 10 to the 80th power amount, so if what Nice Peter multiplied here is wrong, I don't really care enough to correct it. But the yo mama joke that follows, it's just a prime choice insult, easiest 3 points of my life.
You wanna bring the heat with the mushroom cloud you're making.
It's a decent little reference to Einstein's work being a foundation for the creation of the atomic bomb, but not quite point-worthy.
I'm about to big rap from scratch like Carl Sagan.
Lloyd making his cameo appearance here as Carl Sagan, of course, another famous physicist. Sagan has a famous quote that goes something like, If you want to bake an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe. Which I guess makes sense? I don't know. Sagan's kind of weird. Interesting and important figure, no doubt, but he was kind of half scientist, half spiritual guru. Anyway, I appreciate the cheeky little Carl Sagan reference, but I don't think it's quite worth a point. Also, when it comes to Lloyd as Carl Sagan, I found there to be a wild behind-the-scenes revelation in ERB2. While chewing on some cold pizza, Peter notes that they always try to make sure Lloyd shows up somewhere in each episode. So these little cameos, rather than evidence of Lloyd being sidelined, have actually been their way of making sure he's as present as possible. Peter notes that it comes down to an issue of them needing to have performers who look the part, which is fair. Especially with them being still on a very low budget at the time, they could only do so much with costuming, makeup, prosthetics, and it would have been much easier and cheaper to find a look-alike at any given time. Remember, not everyone is as lucky as me to be a 2D cartoon drawing who can shapeshift into any parody at will. Still, part of me wishes they could figure out a way to give Lloyd a bar or two in these episodes, and I know they'd get better at that in later seasons, so I can't be too harsh here. Growing pains and all that. Also, Lloyd admits that he knows jackety shit about who Carl Sagan is. It's just something that his dad apparently told him about back in the day, and that was it. And then Mary says that they had to gaff tape this wig to Lloyd's head, because he has no hair. Ouch. And of course, last time it was Dos Equis, this time it's Tecate. You gotta love those Mexican lagers.
And while it's true that my work is based on you, I'm a supercomputer, you're like a TI-82. Ooh.
The TI-82, a basic graphing calculator from the 90s. A supercomputer, a more generic term, but obviously any supercomputer will be able to do more than a TI-82. Not the most impressive line to end the battle, but it's a decent little diss that fits the theme, so I'll award a point. Holy hell, my brain hurts from all the education on this one. Really fun battle though, probably my favorite of the series so far. Let's not forget, we're still here in Season 1, and each new episode is still growing the formula. At a glance, it's less obvious exactly how this one shakes things up, but in Episode 7 here, it's the first time we've had two figures who aren't actors, aren't politicians, and aren't contemporary pop stars. Although I guess in a few short years, Stephen Hawking's life story would get the walk-hard treatment with the theory of everything, so maybe he is kind of a pop star, but the point is you have two people not specifically famous in 2011, but instead famous in, well, you know, history, which is, again, 20% of the series title by word count and a third of it by letters. It's subtle, but to me it also represents a realization on Peter and Lloyd's end that the scope of this series could be expanded far beyond what they've been doing up to this point. Basically, you know, Chuck Norris, Justin Bieber, Bill O'Reilly, those guys are small potatoes, but two titans of physics, two people famous for their brilliant minds and scientific legacies, now that's an actual epic rap battle for the ages. The performances are great, and the quality of the raps and the visuals continues to improve. And although we've had previous battles decided by 1 point, this one felt like the closest battle so far, especially since so many positive points got awarded over the course of it. We even got into double digits this time, with Nice Peter scoring that 10. And honestly, I could see Einstein taking the W, or at least tying if my feelings on some of these lines nudge slightly. So I don't blame anyone for thinking I'm wrong on this one, but oh well, them's the breaks. I really like this all around. It feels like everyone's really getting the hang of the format and production. It feels like they've really worked through a lot of the early growing pains of the show. It seems like it should be kind of smooth sailing. We've hit that halfway point in the season, and everything afterwards should just keep getting better, right? Wrong. We all know. This is actually a false sense of confidence and overwhelming amounts of hubris speaking. There is, in fact, quite a bit more pain awaiting us. And next episode, we'll get to experience that. Keep an eye out for golden eggs and golden hordes and, oh boy, I can't wait. Like, subscribe, comment. I really appreciate the support from all you guys, and catch you next time.